Derivatives trading involves substantial risk of loss and is not suitable for all investors. Past performance is not necessarily indicative of future results.
So stressful when the world's on fire. Good God. I can't look at this, guys. Like, my strategy is you buy it and you hope that you got a good spot. Yeah, but we all think you're crazy. You don't fight this. No way. The markets are freaking out and you don't think that anything is wrong? Come back tomorrow and I'll lose it all. Should be fun.
All right, guys. Well, it is what? Thursday? Today is Thursday, right? So we're going to get initial jobless claims. Good morning, Alan. Good morning, Frederick. That's a new name. I'm glad to see you here, like, right off the jump, though. That's awesome. All right, and Octavius, let's see here. What are we expecting for the numbers here? Initial jobless claims, median expectation 215K. We're also going to get Philly Business Index. We got a couple of Fed speakers, bill auctions, 5-year Nifix earnings tonight. I don't know why it's listing that one. Okay. Hey, Rob, how you doing? We'll let's wait for the news and we go into the charts, shall we? Oh, and I'm still long here. Actually, it's not that much more than we were yesterday, though. Wait, should it be still long? Okay. 212 versus an expected 215. Leave my stop right there at 108. Okay. Okay, so the Philly Fed Business Index was 15.5 versus an expected 2. So I think that's why they're selling off there. So I've got to like re-center myself. Okay, now I remember what happened. Okay, so yesterday when we left, I was short over here and I was long over here. After the stream, I mean, I had the position when we ended the stream, right? I did not hold on to it like the whole session. I probably should have because there was another 20 bucks in it, but I took it off at 604. So I made 50 bucks. Took it off at 50 bucks on the two contracts. And I let this one to try and run. So it just came back to the 108 even, and I took that one off. Let's come and look at the charts here. So here you can see the treasuries did move a little bit higher, but are, you know, quickly heading back down off of that Philly Fed number. S&P 500 still kind of in doldrums. Oil taking a big jump yesterday. That could be a significant momentum switch. There are a lot of CTAs and other, you know, kind of big guys out there that have been short oil and want oil to be heading down. And we got a bunch of headlines and everything kind of suggesting that there might be another dump of the SPR coming. Gold and silver still looking pretty good. Copper really, oh man, copper just looks so good these days. Japanese yen. Okay, so yesterday we did get that intervention, and then later in the day we got another news story that was like a joint statement from the US, Japan, and Korea. So I take it that they were not too happy that so far their intervention has not really been moving the market. I think that we should expect to see some more of this today, but for now the dollar is moving up. And then Bitcoin got hammered pretty good yesterday, and another 4,000 off of it, but yeah, they're recovering. So far they haven't really like, well, I mean, I guess they kind of have reached some significant lows, but yeah, recovery is okay. So I don't know. Hard to predict Bitcoin. If they go down, you know, there's a couple of people that start to get pressured and things can get ugly very quickly in Bitcoin. So it's kind of difficult to rest easy over there. there's not enough demand for the oil is just temporary noise with the central bank. It could be. I mean, I think that the geopolitical risk is definitely a factor in oil moving up right now. The latest that I heard on Israel was that Israel was planning on striking back at Iran next week, and that they are basically kind of dealing. So something I've noticing happen here is like, it sounds like Israel is going to be going in like, you know, immediately, and it's like the big thing, right? And then nothing happens, and then nothing happens, and then nothing happens, and then finally several weeks later it does. And I think, based on the headlines that I see and the narratives and everything, I think that there's a lot of like negotiation and so forth, like that. You know, Israel wants to go into Rafah, but the United States doesn't necessarily support it. And so I guess the deal that they're making is they're going to do a very limited strike at Iran instead of what they want to do, in exchange for being able to, you know, go at Rafah hard, that the U.S. will allow them to go at Rafah hard. That's the narrative that I'm seeing out there, at least. It's hard to tell how true that actually is. Anyways. And you want to create a program to tick down news events? Maybe we create a Trader Seth video overlay and we can put items on the screen dynamically? Well, so I'm definitely familiar with like putting items on the screen dynamically through OBS and everything. I don't know how you would do a clock though, but I really think that I would just have to make the clock. I could probably do it in C Sharp really easily and well, but I kind of want to use Rust. Maybe Go. I could maybe Go. I don't know. Rust kind of excites me, but maybe it's just the novelty, and you know, maybe Rust ain't all that cracked up, you know. Go, I've been following the Go programming language since the very beginning. I've done a little bit of work in Go, and I like it. I don't know if it's the best for like desktop applications. If I'm building like a server backend, totally Go. I would rather do it in Go. The things that it has for asynchronous programming and all that sort of stuff is way better than other languages. But I think that for like a Windows desktop application, that I would rather do it in Rust. And what I want to have is something where like at the bottom of the screen, I want something that looks like this. I'll make a, you know, I want something that like has these lines, and then there could be like news, right? Right. And then over here would be when the stream ends. You know, that's kind of what I want. And I want it to be like styled like Evangelion style. You know what I mean? Yeah, like a timeline. Exactly. A timeline. And then you have a thing that, you know, moves along the timeline to tell you where you are so that you can see how close we are to the news. And it's always there, so you never forget that the news is coming. You're stalking along at 28? That's interesting. But not until we get to 28, huh? I find this reaction here to the Philly Fed Business Index to be a little curious. It seems a little bit too bearish given that particular piece of news. But what do I know? Oh, you know, we should come over here and we should write our notes. Yeah. Should really make a little quick utility that does all of that renaming things for me, but whatever. I would have to like We'd have to know when it's a Monday to be able to switch it back to Friday. And then what if it's a holiday? But whatever. Okay, so today we got Thursday. I think one of the biggest things is oil declining on headlines, supply, and SPR dump. I'm gonna put a question mark there because I'm not, that is kind of speculative. Okay. Philly Fed hot. Initial jobless claims slightly hot. Lots of Fed speakers. The Thursday. What else we got? Oh yes, we have a 5-year auction. So I'm not sure if all of that really gives me a good imbalance. Yesterday ended up working. Thinking back on yesterday is actually kind of weird how that all turned out, because I doubled down. I guess what I really did was I revenge traded in our martingale it, right? Because I took another trade after I was kind of like, I must not have it. I'm not going to do it again. But then I liked where it was. I took it again. I added to it when it started winning. That one ended up being $50. So I lost like $20 on the first two, and then I made 50, and I made net 30 on the day. And then that 30 washed out the losses that I had on Monday. So I think I'm still slightly down just because of commissions, but by like $5. So it was turned out pretty good, but I don't know if I should really consider it a big success or not. I feel like the individual trade was good at least. But, at that time it was like, well, I think that we have an imbalance to the long side, but, it's kind of a little bit speculative, a little bit like iffy. I don't know. Today, I don't really feel like I have that. I guess the other thing that we should put on this list is JPY intervention likely to continue. So that alone could maybe turn the flows long. But could you tell a little bit about your strategy? You have an algo running, or you manually scalp with the DOM? So Arpo, I am manually scalping with the DOM, but I am kind of more trying to make it I wouldn't say that the trade that I take is a swing, but the approach that I'm taking here is, okay, here are the things that we know that could potentially predict future orders, right? So we got a couple of different things here. Oil declining, that is actually, I'd say, a positive for treasuries. That is like maybe less inflation. Philly Fed hot though, that's not. That's inflationary. Initial jobless claims slightly hot, that's inflationary. Fed speakers, uncertain how the market will react to those. 5-year auction, that one can be mixed. Yesterday it was really good. And then JPY intervention likely to continue. So I've got a couple of things that say that treasuries would buy, and I got a couple of other things that would say treasuries would sell. And so net, I don't think I have an imbalance, and so I don't think I have a very clear trade. If I start to see a really clear trend in the cumulative delta, I mean, it is largely to the short side so far, so I guess I have to lean towards the short side for now. Okay, but then once I have that, then I'm looking for a scalp in line with it. And, the area that I pick is usually not too important. I'm just kind of reading the current conditions when I realize that there's an opportunity. So that's generally speaking my strategy. Okay, and so the dollar is looking strong still. You also mentioned algos. Like, I've written a lot of algos, but I'm not really running any right now. I've got like this system of stuff that I've been working on, and I haven't really gotten to it. I haven't really had the time to really sit down and like do some work. this weekend should be focusing on getting a video out, or at least ready. I don't know if I actually want, I guess maybe I will just put it out on Monday. I was kind of hoping to save it for something else, but maybe we'll just put it out. Okay, I'm so curious that there's a lot of volume at 108 even. Speaker Johnson, I think providing lethal assistance to Ukraine right now is critically important. We can't pay. Why would he use lethal assistance? That's kind of odd. But I don't know. Good for him, I guess. I mean, I agree with him. I do think you should be able to get something for it, though. You know, thinking back on that political situation, you know, the Republicans were saying, well, we want stuff for the border in exchange for Ukraine. And the Democrats basically said no. Was it because they thought that they could get Ukraine anyways? Well, but I mean, it's been like a month. It's been 2 months. Like 2 months ago, they were telling us that like Ukraine is going to fall like any day now if we don't do something. So I'm thinking that maybe it was the case that they were probably exaggerating how dire this situation was for Ukraine, yeah? But I hope that when they do get the aid, I think they will, and I think that they should, hope that they actually use it wisely, because I think that that counteroffensive that they did kind of ended up being a really big waste of resources. Well... throw those hopes in the trash. You don't think that they'll use it wisely? I mean, in any kind of, you know, it's government. It's government, right? So a lot of the money is gonna not be spent very effectively, right? But I guess I'm saying, please don't do another failed offensive that accomplishes nothing, right? Like at the time, it was, I mean, I think that they made a good case that they could have gotten something done with it. And it wasn't like it was a complete failure. I think that they were kind of close, but it just didn't really kind of happen the way that they wanted it to, right? But then the issue that I have is that, like, what did they actually get for all of those efforts? So I don't think they got anything. It was like a high risk strategy that, or no. Well, it always, the money, that's the funny thing about it, right? When you talk about a war, right? Is you think, okay, the war effort, we need to provide more money for the war effort. And when you say that, you think, okay, yeah, then the money goes into weapons, etc., etc., etc. Well, no, because the money goes to the weapons, but actually the money goes to the people selling the weapons, right? So somebody gets rich off of it. Somebody makes money off of it. Something that frustrates me about politics is that people never look past like the first transaction. Like that's what drove me crazy during the whole COVID thing. Was like, okay, we need stimulus and this is the kind of stimulus that we want to do. Okay, I'm a supply side. guy. That doesn't mean that I believe in this like idea that like if we give more tax breaks for the rich, that money will eventually trickle down and, you know, regular people will get more of it or something like that. Doesn't exactly work that way. Okay. We want to reduce taxes because that means more money out in the system, right? Taxes is how you take money out of the system. So the lower taxes are, and the less money there is out there. The lower your deficit is, the less money you're putting out there too, by the way. But it puts you in a better financial system, so there's benefits of having a lower deficit. But what I mean by supply side is if you're going to do stimulus, you have to stimulate both demand and supply. Because if you only stimulate demand, then what happens is everybody wants to go out and buy things, and then there's not enough things to buy, and you get inflation. And that's exactly what happened. It was exactly what we warned about. And if we had put more effort into supply so that there was enough supply to handle the people buying all the things, right? Inflation probably wouldn't have been as big of a deal. But people don't look at it like, okay, I'm going to give money directly to consumers. They're going to go and buy a TV with it. Then that money goes to the TV manufacturer. And then all of the corporations make more money. And so now you got all of these people that are like railing against corporate, like Joe Biden is like, oh, you know, corporate profits are too high and all of the money is going to go. Well, what did you think was going to happen? You gave people a bunch of money so that they could go and buy things. You didn't think that that was going to help companies make more money? I just like, the heck are people thinking? You know what? I don't think Biden understands economics at all. I think one of the most difficult things to do, well, both as a trader, but just in the world in general, is to understand what other people know and don't know. Because the world that I live in is, I'm watching financial news all the time. They're talking about economics. I go on Reddit and there's people arguing economics. And so the people that I interact with, you know, they have somewhat of a grasp on economics. But the reality is the majority of the population does not. And the reality is the majority of politicians do not understand economics. Biden might, but the people running the country don't. There's a story I want to read today because there was another James O'Keefe video, and in that video, the guy that they kind of caught was saying that who was it? It was like some former guy from Facebook or something like that. That he was actually the most powerful, like the second most powerful man in Washington and all of this sort of stuff. I was like, okay, I've never heard of him. I'm going to go look at that and see because I don't know if the things that those guys say, you know, that's just one guy's opinion and he might not really know everything, but it's curious that that's even out there. But Biden has said so many things that it just says to me that he doesn't understand the economics. He either doesn't understand the economics or he doesn't care. That he just says whatever he thinks will get him elected, even though he knows that economically speaking, it's stupid. I'm flippant about James O'Keefe videos. Okay. Rick, yes, where have you been? What are some good none of them. Don't go to Reddit for economic information. Terrible. You know what? I find the economic world, it's difficult because the best stuff to read out there is usually, you know, analyst reports, and you have to pay thousands and thousands of dollars to be getting that. Yes, exactly, Uzi. Since they use dating as a cover story for their targets, or at least a lot of the ones that we've seen recently, it makes the things they say during the dates less credible since people always lie to impress dates. Yes, or at least exaggerate. So I think you're right. Like this thing with, does Jerome Powell trying to get Biden reelected? That person says that. I'm not convinced that that's ultimately what Jerome Powell believes. I'm going to bet you, just based on his background and everything else, that Jerome Powell is probably a lot like me. That is like, well, I wouldn't necessarily be my first pick for to have Donald Trump again, but it looks like it's going to happen and we're going to have to deal with it. Sort of a thing, right? But I could see him saying, oh, I get along better with the Biden administration than I did with the Trump administration. There was a lot of weird stuff that went on with the Trump and the Federal Reserve and stuff, right? So, yeah, I kind of feel like you have to take what that guy was saying with a grain of salt, because some of it may be too much his opinion. Like if he's virulently anti-Trump, and so he's going to be biased towards thinking that everybody else is anti-Trump and maybe exaggerate how anti-Trump they actually are. Let's see here. I've written my final school exams and got an internship at... Oh, really? Good. Congratulations, my friend. What's your opinion on GLP-1 agonists and the whole OB? Oh, man. Okay, so my wife has been taking GLP-1 agonists, and it seems to be working pretty well. Not maybe as quickly as she would like, but she's been doing pretty good with it. There are definitely like side effects and so forth. Does not, especially when she first started taking it, did not feel good. She was always felt sick. I'm going to bet you that at some point in the future there's going to be a controversy about some negative effects that it caused that were like glossed over by everybody. But it does appear to work. One of the big things that I'm, I do end up looking at a lot of stuff with health. I don't feel like that I am knowledgeable enough about health and fitness issues to be like an influencer submitting their opinion per se. Okay, but that's probably one of the biggest areas that I do research in behind computer science and finance. So, because of the weightlifting, and I just pick up on it, right? It really seems to me that a lot of the obesity epidemic comes down to insulin resistance. That people's diets are so rich in highly available carbohydrates. So, like potatoes, right? Things that have a high glycemic index. So, like the sugar goes to your blood almost immediately, and then that has to spike your insulin response. And eventually you get to a point where the cells just kind of stop responding to insulin. And so this is your insulin resistance, right? Your insulin sensitivity isn't very good. And so when your insulin sensitivity isn't very good, that makes it very difficult for you to actually break down fats and use them. So I think that's why there's a lot of people out there that have a really hard time losing weight. My wife has it extra hard because she also has thyroid issues, right? But that kind of does a double whammy to you. One, it kind of makes you eat less in general, and then it really improves your insulin response. And thus she just consistently loses weight. So it works. I think that it, I don't know if the investment side of it, that sure jumped up, right? I wish I had picked up on that earlier. But it's definitely a thing. It's going to have a very major effect on society. Right now, to be honest, I think it's kind of a rich person thing. Like you will see, certain well-to-do women, sometimes you just get fat. You're eating a lot and whatever, right? But I think that you're going to see much more that more and more that it's rare to see a rich woman that is fat because they'll get those things. Eventually, you'll see it filter down to lower classes, but big societal change coming from it, I think. Yes. Lucas says, according to Zero Hedge, yesterday's sell-off was due to CTAs. Yesterday's sell-off in what? In oil or in the S&P 500 or in... I mean, I don't know if I would really consider what happened yesterday in the S&P 500 a sell-off. Well, how much was it? 25? Actually, maybe we should consider it a sell-off because it was about 40 points. That wasn't too bad. That was not like a huge move. That was a much bigger one earlier, right? But that was still pretty bad. But at least from the stories that I've read from Zero Hedge, I would disagree with the characterization that they're saying it's just because of CTAs. What I've seen from Zero Hedge is that there's been a lot of things kind of coming together here at this time. This is a seasonally weak time of year, especially because most of the S&P 500 is in the blackout period for stock buybacks. And that is one of the strongest factors out there continually pushing stocks up. So that combined with the seasonality and kind of people realizing all at once that this inflation thing is still a problem, I think is the leading factors to causing the sell-off. And then on top of that, we're at pretty critical CTA levels where the CTAs have been way overextended in equities for a long time, and when they start flipping, they could sell it really, really hard. So I think that Zero Hedge isn't necessarily saying that the sell-off is just because of the CTAs, but that we're getting to some critical levels and it would not take much more for the CTAs to start selling, and then you would really start to see some acceleration of this sell-off. Metabolism, eat eggs, and lose some crazy weight. And one of the things that I read recently that I thought was really interesting was that it's not just sugar that can cause these insulin sensitivity problems. And in fact, this person was arguing that many people just have too much protein in their diet. Like if you have excessive amounts of protein in your diet and you're not actually using it to build muscle, then that can also lead to some of those problems. That's what he was saying, but I wasn't able to dig into that deeper. Why did you ask about GLP-1 agonists anyways? That was kind of a left field question for this stream. It is an important thing to talk about. It is something it's affecting markets, it's affecting society. It's a big deal. It is a big deal. Another thing I would say is that these GLP-1 agonists have been around for a very long time, and it's just only recently that they've been like, oh, hey, let's use it for weight loss. And there are many of these peptides out there that have potential health benefits that could affect many other areas as well. So, plants and bread destroy your gut? Well, okay, so where... one of the things that I deal with is my immune system basically attacks my colon. Why is that? People have all these theories. It's plastic. You have leaky gut, and then your immune system starts attacking it, and then, your immune system builds up this, gets really hypersensitive to it, and so now it's always attacking the gut. Well, you have poor gut health. So how do you improve your gut health? If it is like some infection or something like that, right? How do you deal with that? Well, you have to eat a lot more fiber. We don't have a lot of fiber in our diet. What are some things that you eat that are high in fiber? Well, there are like bread and stuff like that. And part of the problem is that the bread that we eat is just like too refined. They take all of the fiber stuff out of it. That's part of it. But you know, when I'm looking for like more fiber, what are the things that I have to eat? Salads and like beans. Those are plants. So I'm not sure I believe this thing that like plants and bread destroy your gut. It's really more to do with a lack of fiber in our diet, I think. During my internship, I've done quite a bit of research on that topic, and so it came out of curiosity. Also, because the reason I think Eli Lilly is definitely not a buy. Oh, that isn't Eli Lilly on the evil list? I don't remember. Isn't leaky? I've never heard about leaky gut being fake. There are people out there promoting products and everything, saying you must have leaky gut or something, when probably people don't. And or that thing is probably not going to do anything. See, humans do not need fiber. Well, okay, then how are you going to keep your... The best way that I know of to like increase your insulin, or the easiest way that I know of to increase your insulin sensitivity, is to increase fiber in your diet. Resurgent. Well, no, you can definitely get this thing where like your certain nutrients that aren't supposed to cross the gut lining do. Considering rate cuts in the near future, biopharma could get interesting. Yeah. Okay, so they just released the text of Bowman's speech, but it sounds like she didn't say anything about economic conditions. I'm still really skeptical about getting an interest rate cut anytime soon. But I think you might be right that if we do turn into a bull market driven by like kind of more of an investment in new technology sorts of things, pharma might be one of the places where you see a lot of growth. Oh, and I missed a good thing. I missed the question here. Any good Twitter accounts to follow to get unbiased breaking news? I have a list of news squawks. They're not as fast as Financial Juice, but they're pretty good. I have found Benzinga, for example, releases a particular news headline 2 minutes faster, but for the price Financial Juice is great. I'd say most of the time Financial Juice gets the job done, and it's really useful to have something in your ear. But I would still follow Twitter. I don't know if, it used to be that like, keeping track of Twitter was like absolutely essential. Like during the pandemic days, following Twitter was absolutely essential. Now that so many people have left Twitter, I don't know. It's been a while since I read something on Twitter that I felt like explicitly gave me edge, that I made, directly made money from, but I think it's quite confusing that they went from, I guess, 6 cuts to what is it now, 3 or 4? Yeah. So here's what's going on with that, I think, Tarek, is that, the market has this opinion that the current prices are reflective of all available information. This is a fallacy. created by the efficient market hypothesis, essentially. When you realize that current prices are merely a reflection of current supply and demand, then you have to look at things like what are the SOFR's pricing and so forth like that as not necessarily a prediction, right? So you could have a situation where they say that there's going to be 6 rate cuts, and not because anybody in the market thinks that there's actually going to be 6, but because those are the current liquidity demands. And in a situation like that, you'd probably expect that they're overextending and that they will come back in the end towards what the actual number of rate cuts ends up being suggests that it should, right? And I think that's what's happening, is that, late last year, early beginning of this year, the treasuries were like way too high, based because of CTAs coming in and getting on the momentum and pushing it further than it actually reasonably should have gone based on the economic conditions. And what happens is kind of funny, because there's this feedback effect where like that happens, and then all of these people, because they believe in the efficient market hypothesis, say, oh, well, I must be wrong about something because the market says this and I think this. So then they change their opinion to the market's opinion, and that kind of feeds back into it until you get what's happened in the last month, where all of a sudden the data comes in like what they originally thought, and they go, oh, actually I was right and the market was wrong, and they go back towards 3 essentially. But I wouldn't even say it's 3 now. I would say I'm expecting 1. I'm expecting 1 towards the end of the year, maybe 2. But I don't think we're going to get 3 now. I don't think that we're going to cut in May. I think the earliest we cut is August. Lawn killed TweetDeck, making it paid? Maybe. I mean, I pay for it, and I really don't think that the price for Twitter is that demanding. I don't think that making Twitter paid is what's killing Twitter. What's killing Twitter is that it was a bastion for the far left, and so it was being pushed as such. And now that it's not a bastion for the far left, they want to push other things, and so the left has completely abandoned the platform. And seems to me that you don't get enough activity. A social network is just not really very sustainable without the leftists. Too many people left, not necessarily because they didn't want to pay for it. Or rather, if there was some other social, like let's say Threads. Let's say Threads become really, really popular and everybody on the left loves it. And Joe Biden, he thinks that Threads is just the absolute greatest thing ever. And then Mark Zuckerberg decides that you have to pay to use Threads. I think that they would pay for it, right? What do you think are interesting topics for research in order book dynamics? Well, I haven't seen a paper recently. Actually, you know what? Now that you mention it, and we should we wrote this. We should minimize this so we can see what the rates are down here. He made the error of not keeping X neutral. Well, I don't know about. I think that Twitter is pretty neutral now. It was not neutral before. Maybe you misstated that. Some people kind of put this thing that like it's like been taken over by far right crazies, but I don't really see that. see what things we got in trading in microstructure for the last little while. Strategic informed trading and the value of private information. That might be valuable to us. Target aspect-based emotion analysis to detect opportunities and precaution in financial Twitter messages. There's been a lot of studies on this particular subject, so I don't know. That one might be furthering the research, might be worth looking at if you're into that sort of thing. Reinforcement learning in agent-based market simulation. Unveiling realistic stylized facts and behavior. That's going to be interesting. Kind of moving down here. Oh, we totally forgot about that, Morgan. Did I put it in here? So I should have it in here. Insert. This I really should do the website thing, but that's not an on-stream sort of a thing. Oh, it's this one right here. It's that Mateo. I did have it on here. I got so many things. I think this one right here, Candlestick plus plus. That would be a good stream programming idea. I kind of want to do that one. Can you show me how you filtered your archive? Hold on a second. So I came here to quantitative finance. So archive.org/archive/QFin. Or if you go directly to archive, you know, it comes in here and then there's quantitative finance right here, right? Like that. And then categories within quantitative finance, the one that I'm most interested in as trading and market microstructure. And there's new, recent, and current month. I think new is just the ones that are like this week, because basically what happens is there's like these deadlines to submit them and things like that, and then they post them over the week. So the new is like the past week. Recent is like they just show the last X number of them, and then this current month is just everything in April essentially. So that's how you do that. We considered a market of risky financial assets where the participants are an informed trader, a mass of uninformed traders, and noisy liquidity providers. We proved the existence of a market clearing equilibrium when the insider internalizes her power to impact prices. In the price impact equilibrium, the insider strategically reveals a noisier, compared to when the insider takes prices as given, signal. Prices are less reactive to the publicly available information. Okay, so what they're saying is they're showing that when an informed trader comes in and takes a trade, that it creates a liquidity hole. And then prices are less reactive to publicly available information. Yes. In contrast to the related literature, we show that the price impact equilibrium, the insider's ex ante welfare, monotonically increases in the signal precision. This clarifies when a trader with market power is motivated to both obtain and refine her private information. Furthermore, even though the uninformed traders act as price takers, The effect of price impact is ex ante welfare improving for them. By contrast, internalization of price impact may reduce insider ex ante welfare. This happens provided the insider is sufficiently risk adverse and the uninformed traders are sufficiently risk tolerant. So this does sound like this is an extension of Kyle and shows some of the things that we already know, but maybe from another direction. I would have to read into the study a little bit more to see if there's anything for us to really pick up on, because I didn't completely follow what they were talking about with that later half. But maybe worth digging into. Reinforcement learning and agent-based market simulation. Investors and regulators can greatly benefit from a realistic market simulator that enables them to anticipate the consequences of their decisions in real markets. However, traditional rule-based market simulators often fall short in accurately capturing the dynamic behavior of market participants, particularly in response to external market impact events or changes in the behavior of other participants. In this study, we explore an agent-based simulation framework employing reinforcement learning agents. We present the implementation details of these reinforcement learning agents and demonstrate that the simulated market exhibits realistic stylized facts observed in real-world markets. Furthermore, we investigate the behavior of reinforcement learning agents when confronted with external market impacts, such as a flash crash. Our findings shed light on the effectiveness and adaptability of reinforcement learning-based agents within the simulation, offering insights into their response to significant market events. So I don't know if this one would be super relevant to us, but I think that the agent-based simulations is like one of the best areas of economic research right now. I think that a lot of the limitations that we have in our economic models are solved by these reinforcement learning. And so when you get into these things where it's like, well, the economists, they're always wrong, and I think that as they figure this out, that the economists will get a lot more accurate. Anyways, that's kind of where I go on for research. Anyways, they've moved back and forth across this range a lot, but they seem to be settling at the 108 even, which was kind of funny. That was like the ceiling yesterday, right? Like during the most active parts of the session, they had a hard time getting above that. After we left, then it pushed a little bit through that. So I'm kind of reading this, even though like that range looks pretty decent, I'm kind of reading this as an inside day so far. Yeah. Well, we got 10 minutes before the S&P 500 opens up, so... Let's see here. What's Mohammed El Arian got here? Today's column in Financial Times from Katie Martin FX is a must-read. So much for the Fed's forward policy guidance. What I find fascinating is that people I respect, both economists and market participants, are all over the place as a group when it comes to their thinking on both what the Fed will do and what the Fed should do. As you know from my posts and columns over the year, I see a good part of the stickiness of inflation as a multi-year structural feature of a global economy going through some major transitions on the supply side, and I worry that the balance of risk for an excessively data-dependent Fed is that by remaining too tight, it will inflict unnecessary damage to a U.S. economy that will already be facing more growth headwinds, and with the most vulnerable segments of society most at risk, the last thing they need, especially after the big 2021-2022 high inflation shock, is more income insecurity. I don't know if I agree with him. I think that the economy looks incredibly strong, and that having a recession wouldn't have been so bad. Like how are people ever going to afford a house without some sort of a market crash? You know? Like, there's something that kind of needs to rebalance. And it doesn't look like it's going to happen anytime soon. And if we ever end up in a place where, like, we do start building enough houses and the price of housing starts to come back to a reasonable area, then that's going to be a lot of wealth destruction for another group of people. So that will cause problems too. Okay, Trading Floor Audio says oil, which has been selling off for most of the day now, is rallying after a headline that says Iran tells Israel our hands are on the trigger and warns it knows where its nuclear sites are. Whoa, wait. Our hands are on the trigger and warns it knows where its nuclear sites are. So is Iran threatening to attack Israeli nuclear sites? The ones that supposedly don't exist, but everybody pretty much knows do exist? And if Iran knew where they were, that would be a pretty big deal, wouldn't it? The algorithms probably read the word nuclear in there and are like all panicking. That's a pretty good rally in oil too. That's I'd say over $1. There's plenty of affordable housing just now where people want to live. Oh, I don't know about that. I think that there's housing has just gotten expensive pretty much everywhere. And I suppose that there are some areas where housing isn't very good, but that's because there aren't jobs there. I am pretty sure they do know where they are. That one is it's because the whole thing is that, okay, one time there was this nuclear test, which is to say the United States has this technology where they put these balloons up into the air, and when there's a nuclear explosion, the air moves around the earth, and so with these really high up balloons, these balloons can detect essentially that there was a nuclear explosion from the pressure blast. And this, for instance, was what the balloon was that was found at Roswell. That's why the government was so cagey with what happened at Roswell. It wasn't because it was aliens. It was because they didn't want the Russians to know that they could detect nuclear tests. Okay, so one time there was this nuclear test and nobody in the world took responsibility for it. We don't know who it was that tested that nuclear bomb. And the speculation has always been that it is Israel. That Israel has nuclear capability and has just never told anybody. Has kept it hidden. And it's kind of like an open secret that Israelis have nuclear capability. So for Iran calling them out about it and saying, if you do anything to us, we will attack your nuclear sites is kind of like pretty brazen saber rattling, right? Let's see here. What's this? What do you think? Jim Bianco, below is the number of initial filings for unemployment insurance. How is this statistically possible? 5 of the last 6 weeks, the exact same number, effectively the same number in the last 11 weeks, except for the holiday weeks. The U.S. is a $28 trillion economy. It has 160 million workers. Initial claims for unemployment insurance are state programs with 50 state rules, hundreds of offices, and 50 websites to file. Weather, seasonality, holidays, and economic vibrations drive the number of people filing claims from week to week, yet this measure is so stable that it does not vary by even 1,000 applications a week. Just the number of applications incorrectly filled out every week should cause it to vary more than this. So I think he's right, but I don't think that it should surprise us either. I think that the unemployment insurance numbers are a little bit less reliable than some of the other measures of employment right now. Of course, job openings is the one that's complete nonsense, but because it's the states and things like that, and then you add the seasonal adjustments on top of that and everything, I think that some of that stuff kind of will converge on causing the number to be fairly close to the same every week. And then after a certain point, you'll see like a big shift in it. Right? In other words, I kind of feel like Jim Bianco was picking up on something that I've been reading about in terms of the jobless claims for a long time. So really what it comes down to here is like there are a lot of people on the Democrat side that say the economy is really good and Joe Biden's not getting enough credit for how good the economy is. Because there are some people in politics that believe that the economy is the only thing that matters, and if the economy is doing well at the time, president should get reelected. Okay, it's not like a terrible argument, but I think that's a little overly simplistic view of the world. And so to them, the public not liking the economy, even though all of the metrics that they see are good, really, really bothers them, right? Well, there are a lot of things about the economy that are good, but the one that's not good is that the cost of housing has gone way up and is crazy. That's probably the primary reason why Joe Biden does not look very good right now. And it's kind of funny because we all kind of, I think, came to the conclusion that that's what it was. And so when that happened, then I started to see some liberals start to post these statistics and try and gaslight us into, oh, actually the cost, people aren't spending more on their homes than they ever have historically. And the number of Gen Z that are in homes is in line with past generations and all this sort of stuff. And I'm like, are you freaking kidding me, man? You tell me, like, we all know that it's more expensive. If I were to buy this house today, it would probably cost me an extra $1,000 or $2,000 a month. Normally, I would be in a situation where I would maybe be considering moving. I've lived here long enough that, like, statistically, I would move. And I do feel like we could use the room, but I'm not going to double my house payment. Heck no. So then there's this whole thing that, like, are liberal states perhaps fudging the numbers a little bit to try and help Joe? Maybe. Be difficult to prove. It bothers me that we live in this world of information technology, and yet on some of the most consequential questions of our day, we kind of just have to take other people's word for it that the numbers that we got are real and not just, they're completely making them up. On the other hand, the consumer continues to be pretty strong. Unemployment, I do question a lot of the unemployment numbers and everything, but the larger thing is that unemployment is still crazy low considering how much rates have risen and all that sort of stuff. So oh, it is Morgan K. Why would Iran say that? Why not keep it a secret? It makes no sense. I don't know. Does it really advantage Iran that they know about Israel's nuclear missiles? And Israel doesn't know that they know about the nuclear missiles? But because if I was Israel, I would be assuming that everybody knew that I had nuclear missiles at that point. knowing where the sites are, that does seem like a big deal. But then maybe that would be a reason not to say anything, because then Israel knows that they know where the sites are and would know to like move them or protect them or something. Yeah. Yeah. But Israel is not going to attack Iran until after Passover next week. And when they do attack, it's going to be a small attack. That's the information I've been given, at least. And then Israel will hit Rafah hard. It's kind of weird. If the hostages are being held in Rafah, I do wonder why they didn't go to Rafah first. But whatever. Oil's still looking pretty hot. You know, we should probably switch oil over here. It's M now, right? Oh, no. Yeah, we are on M, June. That's better. You think there's still hostages alive? Maybe a few. I think most of them died, though, yeah. Probably most of them died. But I also think that they were held in Rafah. I think that they probably have multiple holding areas. Like, there probably were people being held at the hospital, but then moved to Rafah. I kind of wonder, because the hospital thing was kind of a big deal. And the news about that died down real quickly, didn't it? It's kind of weird to think back on what's happened, because the public and the news forgets about things so quickly. It's really wild sometimes how easily we forget. It always pisses me off when people like I remember reading all of the headlines and yada yada yada, and then people deny it, you know. Like the thing about, oh well, we didn't force you to get vaccines. Bullshit, you did. You kidding me? There was this federal rule that said that all companies that have any kind of contract whatsoever with the government, that all of their employees have to be vaccinated too. But then that order was like put on hold, and then they forgot about it. I guess it never really happened. But I remember, because I was at a company. I worked for an insurance exchange, and so they have a deal with the government, and they said, yeah, everybody will have to be vaccinated by this date, or we'll have to fire you. But then it didn't happen. And then there's all these liberals saying like, well, no, nobody forced you. Such a lie. Well, it's not gaslighting, but they're lying. Yeah. Yeah, we had limited information. Yeah. Well, okay. You want to get into the COVID thing? Since you're here and we're talking about it, did you see this whole thing about, or it was like a documentary about Burks? They're getting a pretty, whoa, hold up. What's this? Fed still has work to do to lower inflation. So is all of that due to Fed's Williams speaking? I'm not sure. It could be. I think the thing that's giving me pause here is that oil is also declining. I guess so far in oil is just the slight retracement. Anyways, so these guys, they put out this documentary on Birx and the things that Birx was doing during COVID. And basically what would happen is they would want to come out with a policy, and Donald Trump said, no, that policy is bad. And so then Birx would be like, okay, we won't do that policy. And then she would go ahead and do it anyways. And she would just knew how to hide it in the bureaucracy and so forth, so that the Trump administration didn't see it. So Birx in particular was working against the Trump administration's desires during the pandemic the whole time. Everybody focused on Fauci, but they were saying that, like, when it came to the policy and the things that happened during that time that we're all really still a little bit sore about, that it was really Birx. And there's like this whole documentary where people talk about it and, you know, say what was happening and stuff. Is pretty wild. Like, from what I'm seeing, the thing with Fauci is, okay, there's a good chance that it was gain of function research in Wuhan, China. That was how COVID broke out. And Fauci knew that and intentionally tried to hide it. That seems pretty clear to me at this point too. That Fauci pushed against the idea that it was a lab leak. Probably because he was involved in funding that research. And it was gain of function research, even though he says that it wasn't. I think it meets the definition of gain of function research. So that's what Fauci did. But it was Birx that was like, did the things that we're all mad about. I'm a little bit weary about going along with this trend down. Feds Williams not worried about the Fed as an institution. I'm not sure if this move down is because of Feds Williams comments. I don't know if that completely makes sense, but it could be. Fed is data dependent and the data has been very good. We have a strong economy. Fed rates haven't caused the economy to slow much. Economic imbalances have been reduced. The monetary policy is in a good place. I don't feel an urgency to cut rates. Eventually, interest rates need to be lower. Rate cuts will be determined by economic activity. Fed rate hikes are not my baseline forecast. If data called for higher rates, Fed would hike. It could be. Maybe it's just the opening. Well, they have been selling off pretty much since the open. I don't think that explains why the treasuries would be selling like this, though. Like a flow like that in the treasury wouldn't last as long. Man, and the Japanese yen is getting hammered here. Okay, so that's another thing, is that if we are short, we're gonna have to keep an eye out for the Japanese coming in and flipping it. So if I see a strong counterflow, I might be more inclined to go with that. Yeah, gold is selling off hard too. I mean, overall, the dollar is going a lot higher right now. And everything seems to be heavily correlated on this move. It's the dollar up and everything else down. In fact, I don't see a single asset on my board other than the dollar that is not on the downturn in the past 10 minutes. And the only thing I see on the squawk is Feds Williams' comments. And I don't find his comments surprising, but it could just be a case of, you know, he said the thing in the algorithms are responding. So let's come back over here and in news and events say Feds Williams sounds hawkish. We also say Iran threatens Israel nuclear sites. Well, so far they're not stopping, man. Let's see here. On the downside, is there any kind of interesting areas that I might want to make note of? Maybe 25. 26. Okay, so this area right here actually is an interesting area, and there is a little bit of iceberging at 26. Fed's 2% inflation goal is the right objective was another thing he said that I hadn't picked up on. Well, that iceberging at 26 seems to have halted things for now. I don't know if I saw enough counterflows for me to try and take the reversal trade yet, but I'm going to keep an eye on it. The big order at 27.5 that just showed up that I find highly suspicious. Yep, and it pulls. I'm not going to read that as a buy signal, but somebody definitely playing games there. A little bit of back and forth there. Liquidity in S&P futures is drying up, Goldman trader warns. Is it? No, I haven't noticed anything. Zero Hedge had a story about the jobless claims. I tell you what, if there is like a conspiracy theory to keep jobless claims lower than they should be, that sure is going to be a shitstorm if it ever comes out, right? Oil's coming back pretty hard here. $27.5. I don't know, guys. So you know what's weird about this one is that the range they're here in is like almost exactly the one from yesterday, right? Like, remember, it was like 29, and then it fell down to 26, and then eventually it bounced back up and recovered it and went higher. It's almost the exact same thing. They dove through 29, and you thought maybe that would provide some support, and it didn't, and it just completely flushed through, and they tagged 26, and now they're maybe bouncing again. I do kind of feel like that this is like, no, I don't like it. Why do I not like it? Something is kind of tempting me to take the reversal long in the 10-year treasury. But for some reason, it feels dangerous to me. It is a violent move. I think it's because I seem to be a little bit uncertain about what caused it, and there was some spoofing. So seeing some spoofing is always spooks me from trading. I would rather just not be involved if there's going to be spoofing. And let's recenter that right there. Oh jeez, the financial juice news squawk. They just turned the opened the mic up, and like the volume was really loud, and I could hear the noise floor, like the hiss. I was so afraid that they was gonna say something that was gonna blow out my ears, but they didn't. They turned it back off. I was below 27. I don't know, man. Can it go from more, or is it going to reverse? Are those the only two options here? Why do I feel like it has to do one or the other? Why can't it just chill here? There is a little bit of a sign of some strain at 27. Gold recovered. They're a little bit better than the others. Home sales and 6. Good observation. I missed that. All existing home sales. On our list. Should have said that earlier when we were doing this thing. All right. That was too loud. That's better. Oh man. So the one of the stories that's I think dominating the headlines on the conservative side of the aisle is this juror after being dismissed from the case that's starting in New York. She had scheduling conflicts, and they interviewed her afterwards, and she was just seemed very, very biased and everything. And I kind of think that they have created a situation where there's no way that Donald Trump could ever get a fair trial anywhere. Holy crap. Look at that offer that was just stacked on there at 26 as they pushed lower. Oh man. I'm a little bit suspicious here. Why they're moving it like that. That wouldn't surprise me in the least bit to be Japanese trying to shove the market down so that they can flip it around even harder. Because there's just a little bit. Is the home sales number just going to come in and be like absolutely stunning? Could they be front running that? I don't know. Center here. Here comes the news. Okay, so the number is lower than forecast. 4.19 versus 4.2, so not a huge change. I don't think it was front running that news. Heavy bottom, yes. I don't know. It's very odd that the treasuries took another leg lower and the S&P 500 doesn't seem to be responding at all. The thing that's going through my mind over and over again is this might be a setup for flip. I'm just gonna wait. It does seem like that stop run lower, that it's like not holding at all, and this feels very, very, very much like exactly what happened yesterday. Was like there was this freak sell that we really couldn't explain very well, and then intervention came into the Japanese yen. In fact, I'm kind of thinking I really want to keep an eye on this. I'm just going to move my Japanese yen chart over to here. So while we are up like 2 ticks, I'm not seeing the kind of volume that I would like to see for me to think that this is what I think it is. Yeah. Slammed right back down to the bottom. Poll says the Federal Reserve are the first to cut the federal funds rate in September, say 54 of 100 economists, versus June in the March poll. So the economists have shifted to September. They're still saying 50 basis points. Why am I yawning so much? Last night wasn't that bad, was it? When we got slammed down to the bottom, there was another pretty big jump in selling cumulative delta. But they're coming back here. Just floating back up. Dollar's coming back really hard. There's another uptick. It does appear to have stabilized a little bit, but I'm not seeing like pushback flows per se. So they got to be careful about thinking that it's just going to reverse when there is a possibility that it just kind of moves back and forth in this new range. some big orders up here above us now. Chart itself sure looks like a reversal to me. So 6-2 is like calling my name. Seth, let's go short. Micro treasury yield futures at 4.620. Oh, too late. Too late. Too late. See, Seth, you could have been up 2 ticks. You want those 2 ticks, don't you? Well, that uptick at 28 was pretty good though. So far, this is just that big sell that was down here is kind of like rebalancing itself. Look at that. This is moving awfully quickly, isn't it? And look at the Japanese yen. Not too big, but it's going. Seems to be matching it. Pull back the VWAP? The 30 half? I don't know. Is this where we look for the cost basis retrace again? Oh man, to wash out, to get all the way back to the seller cost basis, we have to go to 01. That's a lot further than it was yesterday, isn't it? Oh, I lost 28. I'm not getting 6-2 again, but it's close. Kennedy family members to endorse Biden over RFK Jr. Did you hear this thing that RFK claimed that Trump asked him to be his VP? Do you think that's for real? Octavia says no way. Let's see. Let me find that. Oh no, you know what? It wasn't. I don't think it was actually Trump. I think I got fooled by the news networks. Let's see here. Robert F. Kennedy Jr. on Monday alleged in a social media post that allies of former President Trump reached out to him about joining the Republican presidential ticket as Trump's running mate, something the former president's campaign has denied. Okay, just link me to the tweet. President Trump calls me an ultra-left radical. I'm so liberal that his emissaries asked me to be his VP. I respectfully declined the offer. I am against President Trump, and President Biden can't win. Judging by his new website, it looks like President Trump knows who can actually beat him. That's weird. This is exactly the sort of thing that I do not like Robert F. Kennedy. Is like, okay, he is some crazy person that is an ally of Donald Trump. Like maybe he has a lot of money or something like that and has crazy ideas. Is not indicative at all about how liberal or not liberal you are. You know? Just complete. There is no logic in this tweet whatsoever. And the media is kind of like distorting what he said. Or at least the way that I misread it. There's 6-2 again. Okay, so getting 6-2 and it going a few ticks against me and then coming back up there makes me feel a lot it makes me feel a lot less FOMO about it, right? I don't think I'm gonna take it. I'm kind of thinking that we will form a liquidity hole. Well, I mean, there's already been liquidity hole, but there's just a lot of volatility still. But it will, I think, continue to range around in this area between like 26 and 29 in the next 45 minutes. And so I don't think that like the reversal Japanese yen intervention sort of a thing, if it does happen, I think it might happen long after my session. Bitcoin is taking quite a bit of a jump now all of a sudden. So they have recovered this. You know what, though? When I see this in Bitcoin, every time that Bitcoin takes a fall that I would consider to be pretty damaging to the overall chart picture, some freak buy comes out of nowhere, right? I think you got to keep the scam going over there. Okay, by the way, also the Japanese yen seems to be slipping back down. What's the halving? They're talking about the time when the block reward for mining a new Bitcoin block declines. So every X number of cycles, the reward gets cut in half. And that's what ensures that the supply coming into the Bitcoin market is continually less and less and less until eventually you get to a point where you don't get a reward anymore. The only reward that you get is the fees that you get for mining the block, but they don't actually create new blocks. So the halving, I think a lot of people read the halving as less supply or you know, like, you know, half as many Bitcoins or something like that, but it's just less supply. It's there will still be new Bitcoins being created every day, just not as many new Bitcoins created every day. So that should overall, based on supply and demand, create upward price pressure on Bitcoin. And the play typically has been to wait until around the halving to buy in, and then that's after that, then you get the next big bull market. It doesn't seem, this isn't quite going that way this time because we're already kind of up and all that sort of stuff. But, what I see in Bitcoin still, the biggest thing I just can't see past it is that Tether seems to be printing a lot of money and is probably functioning as a fractional reserve. And if anything were to happen, you would see Bitcoin price get crushed. Like, go and look at when the FTX fiasco happened and Tether had to like pull out all of that money and how far Bitcoin fell, right? It's just like, remember our study where we're like, if you take $1 out of bonds and put it into the stock market, it actually increases the market cap of the stock market by 5. Well, it's kind of like the same thing. It's like, okay, if you take the money out of the Bitcoin market and put it back into Tether and redeem the Tether, then the market cap will probably decline 5 to 8 times the amount of money that gets taken out. And given that it only takes like $1 billion to move a $5,000, right? If something happened with Tether, it would just completely decimate the Bitcoin ecosystem. So I want nothing to do with it. But it's up today. It's up big today. They're not like recovering the negative action from earlier, but it's like one of the only things that's on the upswing. Treasuries are starting to look more and more like this. They've just kind of gone dead down here at the bottom, like I was kind of thinking I was. Oh, good grief. Did you guys see this? Oh, I can't believe I still have this open. But did you see the new Atlas robot from Boston Dynamics? Look at this thing. Wait. So, like, there's been this thing with the Boston Dynamics, right, where they'll put a video out, like, of the dog thing, and everybody thought it was terrifying, and so they're like, okay, guys, we need to, like, change the videos up and do some things so that it's not so terrifying, right? And then they put this video out. What the heck? Okay, watch this. Is that not freaky AF? That is freaky AF. Yes, and then the circle around its head is going to turn red and it starts ripping you limb from limb. Just, it seems a little... My goodness. It's like they decided, hey, okay, what can we do for this video? I know. How about the have it stand up like a horror flick? I someday, calling it now, someday that will be in a horror flick. Like robots standing up like that. Except for that it will be like a humanoid looking robot. Can you imagine a humanoid looking robot doing something like that? Ugh. That would be... No. No, thank you. Danger, Will Robbins. I am still kind of wondering, okay, what drove that? Was it really Feds Williams comments, and then the market, the S&P 500 is going, it doesn't matter, but the treasuries are like freaked out by it. That makes sense to me. But I don't think we're going to figure it out this session. Maybe at the end of the day, we'll get a better idea of why. I'm reading a thread on Reddit where they're saying that Elon Musk doesn't love his kids and his kids don't love him. And I don't really have an opinion on Elon Musk because, look, I don't know him personally. So why should I have an opinion about him like that? And I don't really think that he shares enough opinions that are relevant to me to really have a strong opinion about him, like I have about certain politicians that are clueless. But the comments in this thread are just so unhinged. It just doesn't seem normal to hate a person that much. How are the details of man's family, anyone's business? I mean, I don't think that they are. Well, okay, so what was prompting it was Elon Musk on Twitter was responding to some celebrity posting about their transgender child, and was pointing out that a lot of progressive actors seem to have children that are transgender or something like that. So that's what Reddit is getting all uppity about, right? But all of the comments are just like, I can't wait for Elon's kids to grow up and publicly state what a crap father he must be. I saw one of them. Oh, I think it was somewhere under this top comment where they were like, oh, it turns out that being, having... Oh, yeah, there you go. Turns out being born into privilege and apartheid leads to a better than average odds of being a massive pile of poop. You can just feel the seething hatred these people have for Elon Musk. And it's really startling to me because, let's say when we started this stream, Elon Musk was like a known quantity, but people didn't know what to think of him. There was some people that thought that he was a liberal and some people that thought that he was a conservative, and they weren't really sure. You could kind of see that sort of thing going on where people online thought that maybe they were supposed to hate him or not. There was a small contingent of people on Reddit that didn't like him because they thought that a lot of the mentions of him on Reddit and so forth was just spam, that he was paying for that to happen. Then there was the incident with the kids in the mine. How long ago was that? I remember that being on stream. But there was these kids caught in a mine, and finally, they were able to get this scuba team over there that helped the kids swim back. And then Elon Musk started attacking that guy as a pedophile or something. That was when some people started to turn against him. That one was kind of bizarre to me because I was kind of like, well, is that true or not? Why that didn't make... None of that made any sense. But maybe it was Elon Musk just being doing narcissist stuff to save face sort of thing. Not that I'm saying he's a narcissist, but people in public, they tend to behave that way. But then as he kind of became more conservative, or he started expressing conservative opinions about COVID particularly, and like moved out of California and all of that sort of stuff. Then it was like all of the fuming hatred came out of it. This whole thing about Donald Trump, like the left absolutely just despises Donald Trump. Okay. If Mitt Romney had been president and, you know, was two terms in as president, they would probably hate Mitt Romney just as much. They would probably be going after Mitt Romney just as much. If Mitt Romney was for some bizarre reason running to be president again and was likely to win, I think that they would have the same kind of fuming, burning passion for Mitt Romney. Even Mitt Romney is kind of progressive, to be honest with you. Is just the way that Reddit thinks is just how they come to conclusions is just really scary sometimes. There's just something to think about because Reddit's like one of the best places to like find content right now, but like there's a really strong bias over there, right? So you really have to work hard to get a full picture of the world, let's say. People think you just go and find the right news source and then you can trust everything that they say, but it doesn't work that way. Everybody has their bias, and you have to basically look at all of the information and look at the actual underlying evidence and make your own conclusion. Okay, every time that is like this, let's see here, 1, 2, 3. Maybe we could count that one as a fourth. So it's a fourth or fifth time that we've kind of like fallen from 27.5 and come down through it really quickly and then reverse through it really quickly. The yield's only to 4.625, but so far the last 15 minutes, the whole like, oh, I don't think that it's wise for me to go short 4.62. So what's with that? Why do I sometimes just get this feeling like I want to get in a trade, and then my mind analyzes it and I'm like, nah, you don't want to touch this. What's with that? Is it the calling of the void, but for traders? You know? Oh my gosh, that reminds me of yesterday's X-Men 97 episode. It analysis paralysis, maybe. Okay, so like the new X-Men show is pretty good. And the latest episode, Storm had lost her powers and was trying to gain them back, but in the process of doing so with her boyfriend, he accidentally calls some sort of a demon, like magical demon. And so this magical demon is like, you know, feeds on self-hate and loathing and so forth, and is trying to feed on Storm's self-hate and whatnot. And the things that it says are just so, oh my gosh, it's just, I've never seen in a cartoon like a character where the things that they say, you can just feel the evil oozing off of them. It just makes you feel so awful hearing the things that it says to her. Oh my gosh. That siren call. This obviously the call of the void for traders is maybe different, but I just like, hey Seth, you could go short 4.625. And then if that doesn't work, you can just try and hold it. You know, as long as you don't lose more than $1,000, I think we should be okay. Right? And then you'll lose it all and you can just stop doing this forever. Isn't that what you really want, Seth? Is to just to sleep in every day? This is doing that thing where I can't read your comment again, BS, because the heart is in the way. YouTube, you need to fix that. You need to take the other side of this here trade. Nah. I think, okay, it's 4.625. Let's just write this down, okay? Insert 4.625 at 8:34:30 my time. Okay. My bet is that in the next 30 minutes, it will not deviate more than 10 ticks from that spot. That's what I'm betting here. Oh, if I could do a strangle in options here and make money over the next 30 minutes, maybe that would be the trade. Okay. I think that they're stuck. So if I thought that they were going to reverse higher much further than that, then it would be worth taking a short at 465. And that's kind of what I wanted to do one at 4.62. So maybe we should say 15 ticks, but whatever. We're going to say 10. Should I write that down too? Next 30 minutes. Okay. That way you can't be like, well, but actually you said, yeah, no. We put exactly in there what the prediction was. All right. Okay, let's see. S&P 500 is getting bullish now. Still at 26.5. I'm a little disappointed by how this little rise in the Japanese yen sputtered out. Like, that intervention, if you're the Japanese and you're trying to intervene in your currency, you have awfully frustrated this week, I think. Because it has not reversed higher. That is one thick order book on the ES, you say? Are you just looking at it because mine has 300 at each price because it's actually 4 prices combined together? It doesn't seem unusual to me. Four prices combined, usually resting bids and offers are less than 300. Okay. Well, 500 is maybe a little thick, but 300 seems like it's been run of the mill lately. I know. The overall way this has been going is a little odd. So the treasuries and the Japanese yen pushed back to the lower end of the range, and Bitcoin is still up there high. Gold is a little bit more messy than the others, but they eventually moved with the treasuries as well lower. Oil just kind of retracing, came back to break even. So trying to sort out what happened by which moved where doesn't seem to be doing it today. Treasury is at the lower end of the range, but it does look pretty like they've dug out a pretty deep hole here. So market would probably be a little bit surprised if they decided to do another stop run through 25. Let's see. Looks like there's a decent amount of liquidity below there waiting at the very least. The volume imbalance has been pretty flat since the top of the hour, so and we're back to 65. See, this is where those, those price action traders might maybe take a tick with a 4-tick stop and then consider themselves geniuses, right? They made a tick there. You say it was reloading at 5084? Well, they're below it now, so I don't know if that Let's see if they step up to it again. Come on. Okay, there's the uptick. Healthy bid. And then just go straight for the new high. Oh. The offers got stacked. Buyers could take it out. Oh, that's not what I would call a reload. So a reload is like they take a new price, and then when they come back, so like we push through the highs there. So then they come back and you see an iceberg at 50.84 on the bid. So like there's a big buyer with a passive order just below that new high, ready to take advantage of any orders coming back through. And that can be a strong indication of a breakout. I wouldn't rely on just that alone for a trade, but that is indicative of strong upward action. We didn't get it. We got a little bit of a stop run for a new high though. So that's what I call a reload. Or to be more specific, like, you know, if there was like a 5K iceberg there at 50.86, right? They cleared through it, so there's not. But if I saw 5K there, that would be something that might make me think, okay, I thought it was going to move up, and then they kind of surprised me and they broke the highs. So I kind of feel like I missed it. But then I come in here and I see the reloading. Oh, maybe I can take it. Right? That's kind of how I read that. But so far, I don't know. I mean, the E-mini sure looks bullish, of course. But overall, the markets are looking pretty sleepy all of a sudden. Which is kind of exactly what I thought was going to happen. So you're putting pressure on me. I might, 10 ticks might have been too tight. I was just given a baby monitor. At 27.5 has kind of been a difficult one for them to stay above, so. Odds of U.S. TikTok ban increase after House fast tracks. Oh, I forgot that was still going on. Gonna ban TikTok? Did you hear Elon Musk saying, should we bring back Vine? Okay, so you bring back Vine and you kill TikTok. And you have to go to Vine for your short form content fix. I could deal with that. I could live with that. In order for it would be better for them to tick back down. They're 26.5 for my prediction to be correct. But do we have to wait all the way? Can we, I end early and 5 minutes early? Biden's uncle eaten by dude, that story is so silly. That was one of those ones where like I keep seeing it so much and I'm like, is that really that? Okay. He said that his uncle or whatever, plane crashed in World War II and he was likely eaten by cannibals. And then the Navy was like, nah, actually we don't have any evidence he was anywhere near cannibals. Like, okay. I don't know why he would say that, but at the same time, I don't know why people care. Have I just become so desensitized to stupid things that Joe Biden says, just like I've become desensitized to stupid things that Donald Trump says, that I just don't care anymore? I think so. I think that's what's going on here. Billionaire Steve Cohen says he sees a 4-day work week coming due to AI, per Bloomberg. I don't know if we will, actually, to be honest with you. You know what I think is going to happen? Here's what I think is going to happen. Here's my theory. At least in some industries. It might not be across the board, but in some industries. Right now, if you have a salary job, even though you have a salary job, your company still has a lot of expectations about how much time you spend working. Right? They're like, you should be working 8-hour days and yada, yada, yada. They want you to come into the office so that they can make sure that you're working that whole time. They think that you'll be more productive during that time and so on and so forth. I think that the culture will gently shift towards you. As long as you get your work done, we don't care how much time you spend. And if you're able to get everything done that is being assigned to you within an hour a day, then you only work an hour a day or something like that. And so it wouldn't be like a 4-day work week. It would be even better than that. It would just be like you have complete flexibility about what you do for your day, That's what I think that's much more likely to happen than like a 4-day work week. Because with a 4-day work week, like there are some jobs that you just have to have somebody there. So how are you going to do that with a 4-day, with people working less hours overall? That's not going to work. Unless you just have more people overall relative to the amount of demand. Like you have way more supply relative to demand for certain jobs. I don't think that would work. Someone will protest pro-cannibalism. Oh, this is a funny week. Came all the way back down to the bottom of this again? Oh, actually, they broke as I was reading this thing, or I was typing something. They broke it and went to new lows. And there's the Japanese yen going to new lows as well. Okay, well, I'm glad that I never went to the 62. We're still within 5 ticks of where I said we would be, and it's 8:58. So I'm gonna say success. Only up 5 ticks, and I think there's a chance that this low will be very brief and it will bounce back up again. So I think I did it. This is the most well, I mean, for the way that we trade, it's like one of the most frustrating things is that you can actually predict pretty accurately and easily when it's going to get stuck and not go anywhere. It's where's it going to go from there that's hard. So yeah. That's where we're at. Tomorrow is Friday. What do we have any good news tomorrow? Or is tomorrow like a no news Friday? Tomorrow is a no news Friday, but IMF meetings. Okay. So tomorrow maybe we could do some programming. I'll let you vote on it. Here, if I come back over to here, we have a developing point of control continually moving up, indicative of a strong trend. 2 is we could try taking a look at the countdown timer. I don't know if that's one that's good for stream or not, but whatever. Or we could program our own candlestick plus. Or maybe some other thing that you want to look at. But I'm kind of leaning towards we would do this tomorrow. So, think about it, and we can vote on it tomorrow when we start the stream. But I will see you guys then. I'll be interested to see how this day turns out. I'm definitely going to be doing a lot of reading tonight to try and understand what happened. But in the meantime, stay excellent, team.